systems and leading economics and community growth. Can they do it all together? Let's ask Erez Rואימי, Director of Innovation and Entrepreneurship at the Rashi Foundation, and Mr. פיטר סברסביין, Acting Mayor of El Paso, Texas, USA, and Chairman of SCI, and Minsa Kabanda, Minister of for Kampala Capital City Authority and Metropolitan Affairs. Please, gentlemen and lady, join me on stage.
So I want to start with you, our guest from El Paso. You suffer many problems, climate ones, immigration, etc., etc., etc. Can you have a holistic look over it? Can you see it as one challenge? I don't like to use the word problem as a one challenge and give it a one solution. Can you look at it? Is it a one ecosystem, as we like to say?
So first of all, thank you for being here. I think when you talk about El Paso, I'll just be very honest, I think that we are one of the most misunderstood and misrepresented places in the entire world, probably next to Israel. The US-Mexico border is one that comes from a perspective of looking at the border as a threat rather than the border as an opportunity, both economically and culturally. So what we have seen in our community in El Paso is one that I think a lot of communities across the world, and cities in particular, are adept at. And that is the fact that you need to be able to chew gum and walk at the same time too. Yes, we have problems, right? We had one of the worst terrorist attacks in the United States at the Walmart on August 3rd. I also want to thank the Israeli Trauma Center, who came to El Paso and helped with our first responders in the weeks and months after that to process that terror attack. But the city, has looked at this migrant crisis. We have had migrants and asylum seekers come through El Paso since 2017 for the last 5 years. Over the last 6 months, we've seen close to 20,000 Venezuelan asylum seekers come through, and we have helped to transport them in a dignified and efficient way through other parts of the community. All this is being done while at the same time we've had a strategic plan that has been executed from our city council and our leadership. We have been focusing on advanced clusters, focusing on aerospace and defense manufacturing. We recently received a $50 million grant from the Biden administration to help build an aerospace and research facility at our university, the University of Texas at El Paso. But the thing about it is, we have those challenges and those opportunities every single day. El Paso is over 900,000 people. Ciudad Juarez, which is literally our sister city in Mexico, which is 1.5 million. Imagine Manhattan and Brooklyn with a line in between them. That is our sister cities. That is our community and our culture. 5 bridges, $90 billion of trade a year go between our two cities. We have 85,000 people that go to work every day between both cities, go to school, they go to work, and they go to visit their families. That is the relationship that we have here, and it's a relationship that is based upon respect, understanding, but also resiliency. And that is the fact that we have to be able to adapt as cities. We have crises, whether it's COVID, whether it's immigration, or others, but we're able to adapt and making sure that we keep our eyes on the prize and move the ball forward and try to raise the standard of living and the quality of life for our residents.
So our guest from Kampala, please take the microphone. Let's speak about your challenges and the solutions that you bring.
Thank you very much. I'm Hajat Misa Kavanda, the Minister for Kampala Metropolitan Affairs. I'm also happy to be here with you, all of you. I'm not a mayor, but I head mayors in my country, the capital city. Capital city has 9 mayors. I came with only 1 mayor, but I happen to represent the 9 mayors as a minister because I'm a policy maker on top of that. So the challenges we have in Kampala is the congestion in Kampala. Kampala is the capital city of Uganda, the Pearl of Africa. Kampala was meant to be with only 30,000 people. Right now we have 4 million during daytime and 2 million at night. So that brings the confusion in Kampala, and we cannot manage them sometimes. People think that if they come from villages, they come to town, they can achieve more because there are no jobs. They think when they're in town, they can get more jobs. So that brings the decongestion in Kampala. So I think the challenge is we need to reorganize, we need to plan more, and we need to relocate the towns, the cities of Kampala, rather than thinking that everybody will be in Kampala, the capital city. We should relocate and create more cities around the area, around the metropolitan.
So, Erez, on to you. You are the Rashi Foundation, are looking and actually giving solutions to all those problems that are, you can look at it separately, but still they're part of one big ecosystem, which is called a metropolitan or a city or anything like that.
No, I think we should educate our people. We should educate the community. Should do a clear mindset change on how we are going to manage the city. We should reorganize. We should reuse. We should teach them how to reuse the garbage collection. Recycling is also important because when we don't look into those things, we get problems in garbage collection and drainage systems also blocked. They get blocked because we cannot expose well the drainage system. That's why flooding is there in Kampala most of the times and making it a very dirty environment for everybody. So when we rearrange, we shall achieve more, and I think clear mindset change is very important.
Erez.
Yeah, thank you. We came to this problem in a social mobility point of view to try to give more opportunities for kids so they have social mobility. And we saw along the years that we're actually tackling a complex problem. It can be recycling, it can be immigrant, it can be any problem. But I think the most important thing to say that ecosystem need to serve citizens to give them more services, and we need to see that it's not just a round table that people sit around. So there is the issue of putting together the people that need to sit together, the residents, the local authority, the organization around that need to come. We need to see how there is a trust around the table, because if there is no trust, actually they cannot work together. And we, in the task area, need to see that we have a data. And data that can, we all look at it and to see the problem through something that we see together and then start working together.
But Erez, let's try to spread the problems because you spoke of one big thing, one data, which changes from education to the third age to water problems to, I can give you now a list of 100 missions that one is different from the other. Mayor of El Paso spoke of immigration, of crime, of terror attacks. Those are just 3 problems. I can give you 50, 100 more. So how do you combine it? Because the solutions that are needed to terror attacks in a Walmart branch in El Paso is different than the one that you need for a school, for education, etc. How do you create one big ecosystem, and how do you create the trust when on some issues you do trust your mayor, and on others you look at him as someone who do not assist you. Sometimes he's your friend, and sometimes, I don't want to use the term enemy, but he's not your friend, especially when it comes to collect taxes.
So it's 2 different questions. First of all, to create trust, you need to see that the people talking together, spend time together and see together problem. I think what you asked regarding to the long-term share outcome, you know, in Israel there was days that we saw the level of the Kinneret. So everybody know the number, where is the Kinneret is. In the gun issues, you can see how many people die every year, and you nail a number in accidents, and in also in climate issue. When you see a problem together and you see the long-term share outcome you want to go, so you start to cultivate people to talk to each other and to see what is the advantage of each angle that they can share together. So it's no matter which kind of complex problem you want to tackle, you need to see this trust, you need to see this organization sitting around and talking the way that they want to solve together the same number and not different, because every organization have its own interests, and you need to see how there is a common agenda.
So Peter, you were laughing when I asked my question, so well, take from there.
you talk about the mayor and taxes, and that obviously got a chuckle.
You ran away to Israel. You know, here you're safe. You're not collecting any.
Look, I'm sure that whether you're in Israel or the United States or Macedonia or Uganda, nobody likes taxes. That's something I'm really, really sure about, probably. But there's a big point that I think happens when you're talking about building those bonds of trust. Data is good. Looking at ecosystems are good, but it comes down to one of the most important parts of being a public servant, of being in municipal government, which is listening. Listening is the ability that we have, it is probably the most important tool we have as elected officials, as mayors, as city managers, is to be able to do that, right? To be able to go and look at the data, look at the strategic plan that you have for your community, to build out your ecosystem, to invest in education, to invest in infrastructure, but to be able to listen to the concerns, right? Because we know something true that is also true about cities. Cities are where things get done in our 21st century, right? Cities are where things get accomplished. We are seeing increasingly that on the national, on the state level, things get to be bogged down, they get to be politicized, but it's the cities that have no choice but to work together. Regardless of what party you're in, regardless of what neighborhood you're in, we have to focus on bringing results to our communities, bringing solutions to our people. Otherwise, we don't get elected and we're not doing our jobs. But that, I think, is the biggest challenge, right, is looking at the ecosystems that we have here, understanding that the shocks that we might see, whether it's public health, whether it's poverty, whether it's a terrorist attack, God forbid, or other acts like immigration, those shocks increasingly are not something separate. It's part of the process. And even with then understanding it, you have to have systems in check that make sure that the strategic plan, the strategic vision of your community moves forward. And I think that's something that's really important. Again, understanding, listening to who you are as a community. El Paso and Ciudad Juarez are the 5th largest manufacturing hub in the world. We have the largest army base in the United States, Fort Bliss, and the largest restricted airspace in the United States. That's why Blue Origin is 90-mile drive east of El Paso, and Spaceport America is 90 miles west. Why are we focusing on aerospace and defense manufacturing as an industry and innovation cluster to grow jobs? Because we have those natural resources of military and restricted airspace and a young dynamic workforce as well.
I want to stick with you on that because on one hand, you've mentioned before the immigration problem, which is quite big. And that might force, you know, young, effective, innovative forces to leave El Paso and to go somewhere else, whereas you want to leave them inside because that's their home and because that's, you know, a growth engine, a very strong one. So how do you counter those two things which do not always work together?
So, you know, I think it's important to separate a couple things when we're talking about immigration and we're talking about what people see on the TV, right? One is that we have constant immigration between Juarez and El Paso, our sister cities. 85,000 people a day go to school, go to work, back and forth. We're also seeing, too, over the last 5 years and over the last 6 months, asylum seekers, refugees that are coming from Venezuela, Central America, that are requesting their international right for asylum, that are coming through El Paso, and El Paso means the pass. El Paso del Norte is the Spanish name for the Pass of the North. This has been a place of migration for centuries, which is occurring as well. But then we also are dealing with another migration, and this is where we are trying to focus on our strategic plan and our investments, and that is the migration of human capital. People that are educated in our community are going and taking jobs in other cities, right? They go to school at UTEP, at our engineering department, they get jobs at Boeing in Seattle, or they go to Dallas, or they go to Miami or New York and don't come back. So this initiative that we're focusing on with the university, with our advanced clusters, is to try to keep those good paying jobs of the future in our community and keeping our residents here.
So Minister of Kampala, back to you, and I want to ask you, you know, big cities tend to attract people from outside. I haven't visited Uganda, but I bet it's the same in Kampala. People come from the villages, etc., etc. How do you handle the city whereas you have so many opposite forces, you know, pulling each one to the other direction sometimes?
First of all, I would like to invite you to Kampala. Come and visit it because it's a peaceful country although it's densely populated, but I wish to invite you to come and visit us. And I would take this opportunity to invite everybody to come and visit, because Kampala is peaceful, though with some challenges. People migrate from other areas and come to Kampala, and because they think they are jobs. Because in Kampala, in Uganda, we also lack jobs. People have gone to school, people have been educated, and they think they should they should come to town to look for jobs. Although someone has a degree in something, they think jobs are not there. That's why we have gone back to skilling our youths in Uganda. The syllabus has changed a bit. We are doing too much skilling right from primary to secondary up to university. We've gone zero much on skilling programs, and we have many schools for skilling. Secondly, people have also migrated from the town to Middle East. I think you are aware about that. They think we don't have jobs, and when they go to Middle East, they get jobs, and that's why where the problem is in Kampala or in Uganda as a whole. So we want to discourage our people that they should do more skilling programs in Kampala, create more jobs in Uganda rather than going outside the country. And we have also, when we make more cities in other municipalities, if we create more cities, if we create more opportunities, people will not migrate from villages to town to come and congest Kampala.
So, Erez, I go back to you. You know, we've heard from the mayor of El Paso of all those countering problems. Is there a way to look at the world or all cities on the same level, or each city needs a tailor-made solution for its own needs in order to tackle it better?
I think every city is a different world, but there is some themes and generic points like the very important point you mentioned regarding the listening. Listening to the residents, taking decision together, and I think also this is a worldwide point of view and generic, that the local authority became more and more powerful in the world, so we need to trust them more, we need to give them an infrastructure. You need to see that they have the infrastructure to gather the people, to collect the data, to see the process going. Because if we're coming to the city from outside, even if we have some information to give or data to give, it won't work. So I think the main common thing is to see that the local authority is one of the main backbone of or the ecosystem. Otherwise, you just come to talk about them and you're not working with them. So it won't be sustainability, it won't be resilience, and it won't work.
And out of your experience, Erez, what are the success rate? I mean, looking at cities that you work with, organizations that you work with, how successful are you?
I think there is a long way because it's a system change. But we do see many changes regarding to how cities holds steering committees with the residents, how we listen to the residents, how we having decision together, how they collecting data as a culture, not just one time. And I see that policy change regarding to this, because if you see a problem like education or informal education or youth, so you see the city holds it, own it, and make this ecosystem work for the residents, so the residents getting more and more services. You can see it by the results, the regular results like scores or others, but you can see it also as in the infrastructure. There is more infrastructure in the city, so it is a success.
Last words from you, Peter. You know, Erez mentioned beforehand the bigger and bigger role municipalities are taking upon themselves. We've seen it with the coronavirus, etc., etc. Here in Israel, it's very rapid that we see it. That's the solution, you know, to relieve the federal government from its duties and to take it to the municipal level.
So I think what it comes down to is that in a vacuum of leadership, people step up. Right, and the other thing too is that we know that cities and innovation is built into cities' DNA. When you have places of people coming together, of immigrants from across the world coming to places, right, cities are where they are. And we've seen that the rural areas have decreased in population and cities have grown. But it's not just enough for cities to take it on their own. That's why organizations like the Federation of Local Authorities, the National League of Cities, and other groups that can help advocate for city interests on the federal level is the most important part, because at the end of the day, when you're talking about funding and you're talking about investment, you have to listen. And it's the most important part is to listen to those local leaders who understand the needs of their communities, not just in the past, but in the future as well. And so sometimes I would say that, you know, when it comes towards our federal governments in the United States and Mexico, I would say the best kind of wall would be to build around El Paso and Juarez and leave DC and DFA out.
Lady, gentlemen, thank you so much for this discussion and welcome to Israel. Enjoy your time here. Yeah, please do.